Well, hello and welcome to Penelope's Chinwag. My name's Pene. I live in a seaside town in the southeast of England with my husband Pete, and you're more than welcome. Thanks for joining me. Well, what's this week's episode all about? Well, as my crafting table, I took a little film of what was on it from last time when we left, the day after I did my last episode, and I've done a little film this afternoon of what's on it now, so you can see what I've been working on. Oh yes, I'm going to do a little bit from nature. I've got something about a beetle. I've got a film at the end as usual, and I'm going to read you some of my story. I think that's it for this week. Pete's not on it this week. He's had a good week, but he hasn't felt like filming, been a bit tired, but he will. Yeah, hopefully for next time we'll have a Desert Island Discs. He's thought of the record. It's just about getting it all together in his head, you know, so that we can have a chat about it. But he will. He's fine. So where should we start? Shall I put up a crafting table then and we'll start there? I'll see you in a minute then.
Well, as my mum would say, I came to show you what was on my crafting table. I left it set up last night with the bits that I want to accomplish until I see you again. And this happened. Well, I knew the guys were having a chat, so that was fine. Tilly and Holly, they're the serious girls. They have a chat about the others, what's to be done, and they're obviously in a bit of a tizzy, really, because, well, they've all joined forces up here. I'm going to have to move them on, otherwise I can't possibly show you what I need to be doing for the next... Well, I can't get on. Who else is here? Well, even Polar Bear, PJ, who likes to be on his ice floe on his own. He's joined. He's brought some fish for them all, probably, for tea. It's still hard for Sloth. He's trying to sit up, but he found the iron very helpful just to have a lay back. Little Tootsie Bear, he was my first ever make. He's so cute. And you knit him all in one, so no sewing together. And Little Cotton Rabbit, he's from Aberdeen, and he must have just popped by to see them. So they're all having a grand reunion. Oh, and the girls are so happy here. Yeah, so you see, everything's set up, ready for filming. I popped my phone in the middle there, but how can I possibly show you? I'm going to have to ask them if they wouldn't mind finding somewhere else.
So I have my spool of my makes, my mum and my nan, and my mum's wedding dress. It's all representation, and I did my beads in a jar I used to play with aged 9 months, obbity gobbity. I've got to sew that on there. Now that's not going to take me long, but it's a job that needs to be done. So that will stay out until it's done. And then hopefully I will make another one, if I can, to go with my story. We'll see. Also, I would like to make another. I made this, if you remember. I made several of them for my table downstairs, and I'd like to do a couple more. So that is on my mind, to sort some fabric out and do another one. I'm knitting the sleeves of my jumper that I showed you in the last episode, which went out yesterday. I bought this from Anne of Spar Knits, and I'm going to knit my daughter Nicola a first pair of socks. She said she'd like some, and I think that would be quite fun. Blue's her favourite colour, and they're quite jazzy, so that's to do. I wound up the blue John Arbon for Pete, Exmoor sock. Ah yes, whortleberries. So that's wound up, ready to start. And I've got some fabric out here because I'm making a video of, oh that's where I've cut it, cut bits out. I'm making a video of how to make a quilt for an absolute beginner. So I've sorted the fabrics out and I need to do the next phase of the filming. So that's what's on my crafting table. Not too bad. The guys have slung their hooks. I need the space, and I'll show you in the next part of the vlog how I managed, what I managed to do. It might be something or it might be nothing. Well, it's 10 days later and it's Sunday the 19th. So let's see how I've done. Obbity gobbity got sewn on and another one got done. So I'll show you that when I do my story, when I read my story, call it my story. What I've just done has been inspired by this little photo. Oh, that's when I lived at Harlow, and that's what I'm going to read to you about. This is what I've got left from the wool I had in my stash. So that's not bad. That will go in my little, I'll have to weigh that. That'll go in my pot anyway. And they're always handy, but that's what I've got left. What I knitted was a free pattern, and it is the J sweater. And I'm pleased with how it came out. I finished it. It's, as I said, it wasn't my favourite wool, the felted tweed. And also the pattern, I felt, didn't come out as it should, because the wool it's tweed. And so you've got all different colours in each different ball, which is lovely, and it fits beautifully. Let me see if I can show you. Here it is. I did the bottom because I was going to run out of the this one. So I did the bottom in that. Last time I showed you, I had done a picot edge, but it didn't sit well at all. And I think it's because this is a double knit, and when you folded it over, it was very heavy and it stuck out. It was bulky. So I undid that and just did a small, on smaller needles. I changed my needles about here. This is done in a 4, and I did this on a 375. So it would pull it, make it sit nicely. Although it said do it on a 4.5, I did it on a 4 because I didn't want it to turn out too big. And again, it's just got a little bit of rib around the top. So now it's just got a little bit of rib around the bottom. The sleeves, I did the same. This is knitted on a 4. Then I changed to a 3. Actually, I changed to a 350, and I did enough because I had enough wool. I did enough to make a nice cuff. So yeah, it's lovely. If I can, I'll get a photo of you, of me, and show you. So that's done. That's done. Over here is a pile of stuff. Well, it's 2 quilts and another one. And it's the quilts I made this week to show you how to make a quilt, if you wanted to know. And they're ready now for quilting. So I need to make the little film to show how I quilt a quilt. Everybody does it differently. It's a different, you know, you can't ever say there's one way 13th to 19th of May because it's Sunday, and I always do my little tags on a Sunday. And this was last week's. I think last week went quite well. It must have done, because I think I got my ducks in a row. That was the you know, what do you call it, on the edge of a fabric, you know the word. Oh yes, this was to show the quilts that I made. I'd made one of Tilda and one of the Acufactum, and put that video up last week. So that's what I did then. So I need to do this. This is to do. I've got my socks. I'm just starting to do the sock with the John Arbon wool, and I decided to put this with it. First time I've done a sock with 2 yarns, with 2 different colours. So that is going to be got on with. I've got this out of the project bag and I'm turning the heel. So that's going to be got on with, and that's still waiting to be done. So yeah, socks. That's my little sock pile. I've still got my tin with my Quilt As You Go star in a hexagon. So that is being left on here because if and when I have some time, I want to do another one for my tablecloth. But I've got a feeling I'll be doing this quilt first before I start any more on here. Nevertheless, it will stay out to remind me, otherwise I forget. And then, of course, I think those of you who watch know that Mousy Makes has got a mouse along, I think. Mouse something along. Sew along, knit along, crochet along, whatever you want to do along, I think. You can paint along. You can do whatever you like. You've got till the end of June. I'm hoping that mine will get done. But at the minute, I never quite know what's going to turn up. So we'll see. We'll see. If I can, I can. If I can't, well, I don't. But I'm going to start something. And what I'm going to start, in the 80s, I did quite a lot of embroideries. They were kits, and they were embroidery kits, and I loved them, of Brambley Hedge. In my other home, I had a beautiful china cabinet, and I had all the Brambley Hedge characters in there. And when I moved to this house, I haven't got the room, and I shared them amongst my daughters, and I shared the embroideries amongst them too. And I decided to do another one of these. You can't get the kits. So guess what? I'm going to wing it. So let's watch this space and see how it comes out. I know the one I want to do, and I have done it before in kit form. I'll show you. Oh, here it is. I want to do this. I love it. So I'm going to try and embroider that, and we'll see how we get along. So that's my crafting table. Yes, so Helen of Mousy Makes is doing a mouse along. I think that's right. I'm going to put all the details below, and I'm sure you know all about it. But if you don't, do pop along to Helen and have a look, and she'll give you all the information. And yes, I'm hoping to do that embroidery. We'll see how we go, see what my time allows me to do. And also, Pete and I have just been out for a little walk, and he took a film of me in my jumper. So I'll pop that up here so that you can see how it came out. I'm very pleased with it. I think if you did decide to knit the J sweater, that the wool I did it in, which is the Rowan felted tweed, they say in this new way of doing it, I've only ever known 4-ply and double knitting, you know, and Aran, but now they have this sport weight, and I think that the Rowan is a sport weight. It's in between a 4-ply and a double knit. In other words, it's a very light double knit. So if you had a heavy 4-ply or a light double knit, that would be the one to use for the J sweater. I think if you use a good heavy double knit, it would come out. You'd have to do a size smaller. That would be what I found out from it anyway. But it was honestly, there was a little breeze when we went out for our walk, and it really kept me light. Oh, it was lovely. It was very comfortable. So when I was young, I expect you did too. We used to use, I don't know, different words, try them out. And one of my favourite words was diabolical. Everything was diabolical. I can remember saying it, walking home from school with my friend, diabolical. And I was thinking about that this week. I used it actually, and it took me right back. I thought I haven't used that word for quite a long time. Of course, as is my way, I looked it up, and it said diabolical means evil. It's a strong word. Too much arithmetic or English homework, well, that wouldn't be diabolical. That would be dreadful. That would be horrible, unfair, but not diabolical. And it says diabolical is related to the Latin and the Spanish word diablo, which means devil. And so you can't, as it says, you can't get any more evil than the devil. So it's a powerful term, stronger than even despicable, which is another strong word for things that are hateful. And diabolical, it says, is intentional. So when I walked home and said, oh, for goodness sake, we've got so much homework tonight, it's diabolical. Well, it wasn't really. It was unfair. It wasn't great. But it says here, if you got hit by lightning, that wouldn't be diabolical because it would just be, one of those things. But if somebody deliberately did something, ghastly to you, horrible to you, it says here, runs over you with a car. Well, I mean, it's not a very nice thing, is it? But that is diabolical. So it's quite interesting to think that it's really got to be something done to you purposefully, to really use that word properly, because it's as if it's done, by the devil. Well, that got me thinking, as you know, once you start Googling, and I came across the Diabolical Ironclad Beetle. And have you ever heard of him? I hadn't. Apparently he lives in western North America, and this beetle can withstand a load of about 39,000 times its own body weight. And it can even be run over by a car and survive. How can this beetle bear up under so much pressure? Well, the top and bottom sections of the beetle's shell join at ridges along each side. One type of ridge firmly resists deformation when compressed, protecting vital organs. Another type is less stiff, allowing more easily for deformation. A third type of ridge allows the beetle shell surface to actually shift. The flexibility of this third type of ridge allows the insect to squeeze under tree bark or hide between tight rock crevices. It can't fly, this beetle, and in addition, the seam along the center of the beetle's shell has multiple protrusions called blades, which interlock like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, spreading out the stress. The blades are composed of layers that are glued together by proteins. When compressed, the proteins develop tiny cracks that eventually heal and allow the blade to absorb the pressure without coming apart. Well, this can be very advantageous for the researchers because they're studying this beetle. They can learn from nature as usual, and the shell might inspire safer designs for structures that must resist pressure or impact, such as vehicles, bridges, and buildings. Of course, that would be most helpful in places where there's, what do they call them? Where the ground moves. Yeah. I'll put it on the screen. As usual, while I'm filming, I've forgotten the word. Oh dear. It's so embarrassing, but you know what I mean. So I thought he was rather, diabolical, sent from Satan, sent from the devil. But this little creature, he can really teach us something. So it's the diabolical ironclad beetle. So shall I read you a little bit of my story? Okay. So last week, yes, I read that we moved from London to Harlow, which is in the countryside, as I'll carry on from there. Pictures of me outside Tannisdale show that it was still very much under construction when we moved there. We had to walk over rough ground to get to the shops, and building was underway in every direction. I loved the small balcony we had, and Mum said I often slept on a little bed out in the fresh air. Mum worked at the local bookies until just after lunch, when she collected me from school. She also went around canvassing, asking people if they would like to subscribe to a new mother and baby magazine called Mother. Through this, she met some new mums, and from the sound of her recollections, she enjoyed living at Harlow. They made friends with a couple who were vegans. Apparently, they wouldn't have cotton curtains because of the conditions around cotton picking. Mum and Dad became vegetarians, and later they became naturists as well. As I say, very progressive. My first memory was when I was about 3, and I was helping Mum to polish, and I broke a vase. The photograph of this time shows me with my hair done up in a turban and knickers drooping down. Elastic was susceptible to stretching after a hot wash. I crept into the corner and cried. I put the duster up to my nose, and I can smell the polish even now. Mum gave me a hug and laughed. "Don't worry," she said, "it's only a vase." I don't remember Mum ever getting cross with me. She told me that if I was naughty, her way of dealing with me was to send me to my room and ask me to think about things. I can remember this, but no, I have always loved my bedroom wherever I have lived, so perhaps I enjoyed these forays. I do know I always wanted to stay at home with her. It felt so safe and warm. The button I chose for Mum was a yellow knitted one, soft, homemade and sunny. Mum was always singing, always there for you, and always happy. She cared for people, and I felt she always cared for me. Looking back, at times I took her for granted, but we always got along. In 1952, the Queen came to the throne unexpectedly, and it was a big year for me too, because I started at Fesden School at Pondon Hall. It was a beautiful old house, a couple of miles from home, and closed as a school in the 1990s. It was a private boarding school with painted ceilings, rambling old grounds and woods, and even a ballroom. From a sink on the landing to private school. In 8 years, how life had changed. My teachers' names were Miss Clare and Miss Hinkling. I know Miss Clare, it's been written about her that she taught her children at home, and other people said, "Would you teach my children, and would you teach my children?" And she was a very well-educated woman. Apparently her husband was a stockbroker, and so she looked around for a school that would that she could go to and to take on other people's children. Apparently there were horses there. It was the most special place, the most unusual of schools, and that's where Mum and Dad chose to send me. Anyway, I don't recall my uniform, but definitely remember my Pene. Mrs. Clare said, "Put your arms and head in all together." The feeling of having to concentrate and get it right, or I'd end up in a tangle. She held it open and I slipped it on, feeling proud when everything was in the right place. I've loved crossover Penes ever since and made myself a couple during lockdown. I didn't board, but went on the school bus. Mum came with me at first, but she said I cried when she left, and so they said pop her on the bus, not to worry, because I'd stopped crying by the time I arrived there. So she did. I remember sitting on the long seat and waving goodbye to Mum. I was 3 years old, but quite safe with kindly members of staff. We had a little cot bed that we had a nap on in the afternoon. I remember that, but to be honest, not too much else. Mum told me of an open day when she borrowed a dress and a hat and went with sixpence in her handbag. She laughed when she told me that. One report said, "Pene has been much happier at school this term, especially during the last few weeks. She's more independent and takes a lively interest in all activities." I was 3.5. I can relate to taking a lively interest. That trait has stayed with me. Another report said, "Pene is a very happy and helpful member of her class. She plays extremely well with the other children and shows great keenness about her work and joins in all class activities." That's what I meant when I chose the mother of pearl button. Happy, lively, and, well, shiny. I can remember reciting a poem at this age, saying it over and over. "Old Mr. Muddlecup lost his hat, couldn't find it anywhere, poor old chap. Went down the road and everybody said, 'Silly Mr. Muddlecup, your hat is on your head.'" I thought it so funny and laughed every time I said it. I recall being collected one day from school and feeling very special. A dad's friend took me home in their shooting break. I think I was going to a party. I know there were a few children and we all squashed in. I had a summer dress on and was excited. The car had beautiful wood around the outside, leather seats, and seemed so spacious to me. Shooting breaks and good feelings go together. Not that I ever went in one again, I don't think. Looking through my photos of the time, too bring back recollections. We sometimes went to a pub in the country for a drink. I remember drinking my lemonade from the bottle and bubbles going up my nose and pulling a face. The other photo is of me climbing some stairs with nothing on but my soft shoes. Mum and Dad were by now naturists, and this photograph was taken at Spielsplat in Hertfordshire at a naturist get-together. Dad was finding his feet at work, and Mum had a part-time job in a bookies. 26, living in post-war Britain, naturists and vegetarians. They were making friends and settling down, and I was happy in my school. But it was a trek for Dad to travel to London each day. The road systems weren't like they are now, and cars not so reliable. His company offered him a flat close to his work, and best of all, close to Tottenham Hotspur football ground. They took it. And so a photo this week is this one. I love them. And I think that's me when we lived at Tannisdale. Well, I know it is. And I did a little embroidery to go on my thing, whatever you call it. And this is it. I didn't do the face. I didn't need to. I've got the photograph for the face. But as I was embroidering the bow, it made me really feel Mum put that bow in my hair. She used to wear a bow. I did an embroidery of her, a little bow in her hair. And here's my bow. And then as I did the dress, Mum told me when we looked at the photo together, she'd made the dress. She'd done that embroidery. And you can see that the shoulders were, well, you know, the sleeve, like this one's a little bit big. It's roomy. I like it roomy now. But that's how Mum, she didn't do, you know, the sleeve there. She did the sleeve right at the end. And it made me really quite emotional doing that embroidery. I didn't need the face. I did do the face and I undid it. I didn't need the face. It was more about Mum making the dress and Mum tying the bow. Yeah, I took it from that. So I think that's it for this week. Thank you for joining me. We went out for an early morning walk a few days ago now. Well, we had one side of the garden done. The gardeners came and cut the trees back. And this week, the gardeners came and cut the other side back. And so I put a little bit of film up there just as part of my diary to remind me. And we went out for a walk around our block. That's all we're doing at the minute. Pete getting his strength back up. So I'll see you next time. And I'm hoping next time will be how to quilt the quilt, if you follow along and you're actually joining me in the quilting. If not, the one after that will be my usual chat. So once again, thank you for joining me. Till next time, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.